Good morning. Welcome to InsightsIAS PSIR Analytica. I am Nikhil Gowda, the PSIR faculty at InsightsIAS. So, since from past 3 days we have been discussing, important questions from the political science point of view. So today, the fourth day, will be taking up one more question, which is on Aristotle. So this week we were covering mainly three thinkers, and we are given at the start of the week itself. This week we will be covering part A. In that we are covering Plato, Machiavelli and Aristotle. So again next week we will be starting with the defined syllabus in part B. That I will tell you tomorrow, that what will be the syllabus we will be covering for next week. So coming to today's question, let us first take a look at the question. The question says that critically analyze Aristotle's view and defense of slavery. So friends, again here the key aspect is that the word critically analyze. Here they have not just asked what is Aristotle's view on defense of slavery, they are asking you to critically analyze it. Basically critically analyzing it means you need to look for both arguments and counter arguments, but first you need to present Aristotle's view and defense of slavery. Means what did Aristotle say about slavery? Why did he defend slavery? Then we have to analyze whether Aristotle's arguments for slavery can be accepted or not. So what you can start with, as I said before, you can start with introducing Aristotle. You can say Aristotle is the father of political science. And he has written one of the most important book or the work which is considered what we can say which laid down the foundations of present comparative politics in that regard. The book name is Politics. Then you quickly jump into saying that what is Aristotle's view on slavery. So next you have to logically bring what is Aristotle's view on slavery. So then you can go on to write Aristotle, quote is there which you can say, Aristotle believed that from hour of birth, some are marked out for subjection and others for rule. So basically Aristotle believed that there was a kind of inequality naturally itself in that regard. All humans were not the same. There were certain souls which were superior, there were certain souls which were inferior in that regard. So those who are superior, on what basis we can tell superior or inferior? So those who are superior soul, they have reason. Those soul which consider as inferior, they lack reason. So this category of human being superior, they go on to become masters, and this category of inferior, they go on to become slaves. And Aristotle also defends it by saying that even their physical attributes indicates that whether they belong to the class of masters of slaves, because he says slaves are physically more strong in that regard. Their body is meant by nature to be utilized for physical work. Masters basically have intellectual work and they have less of physical attributes in that regard. So he says that in a kind of, it is natural for some people to become rulers and some people to be ruled because they lack reason in that regard. The second defense what Aristotle brought about slavery is it with respect to its utility. So basically Aristotle argued that when the slave performs the domestic duties, it allows masters to contribute to public affairs and help for the development of the state in that regard, and there is a mutual benefit for both the master and the slave. The master gets the benefit from the slave, means he is going to save the time which he has to use for domestic work, that is which he believes is non-productive in nature, whereas the slave in the company of the master, he will gain reason in that regard. And you can also write about that Aristotle has also said, when a slave attains reason, when the master feels that slave has attained sufficient reason in that regard, he will be broken from the chains of slavery. So friends, we can bring these arguments to say that this is how Aristotle defended slavery. And then you can also write that these arguments have been also carried forward by many sections of society who want to dominate others in contemporary times. Example you can give, in America, the plantation owners, they use the same arguments put forward by Aristotle to defend something called as planter paternalism, where they justified that blacks were more endowed to do physical work and slavery, or it was a right for the whites to own the slaves in that regard. But now let us bring the counter arguments. Let us evaluate what is Aristotle's ideas in that regard. So when we come to the counter arguments, first of all, we can bring in the views of Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant spoke about human dignity. So we can say that slavery cannot be justified because it is useful, because it is violating the basic concept of human dignity. Every person need to have certain sense of dignity. Everybody are born equal in that regard. The second argument you can bring of Rousseau. We can make use of Rousseau's argument in the sense by saying that all types of inequality are not natural in that regard. There are many inequalities which are socially created. And slavery is one such thing which has been socially created for the benefit of the exploiters, and that cannot be defended or cannot be justified in that regard. And you can also link, if you want, Gandhi, because Gandhi speaks about dignity of labor. For Gandhi, both physical work as well as intellectual work are equally important. That is where Gandhi says we have to treat a lawyer and a sweeper as equally. We cannot discriminate based on their attributes in that regard. And finally, we can also bring an argument saying that though we call Aristotle as the father of political science, there is nothing scientific. There is nothing scientific about his views on slavery. And in the conclusion part, you can bring the arguments of Agnes Collard. She is a professor from University of Chicago. So her argument is that we cannot judge Aristotle only based on his idea of slavery. We have to understand the idea what he gave, in what social context and in what times, because he belongs to ancient times in that regard. So you can end your answer by a quote of Agnes Collard, who says that there are no good guys or bad guys in philosophy. There are only arguments. So friends, these can be the content what you can write in this particular answer. This is how you can interlink these scholars. Interlinking these scholars is a very key aspect to score well in the examination in that regard. I hope you are able to understand the context in that regard. So with this, we are coming to an end for today's question and answer discussion. I hope most of you are liking this session, and we'll again come back tomorrow with a new question in that regard. And tomorrow I'll also give you the target for the next week, what part of the syllabus will be covering in part B, because I told you before, it is happening in cycle. First week of every month will be from paper 1 part A, second week of every month it will be paper 1 part B, third week will be paper 2 part A, and fourth week will be paper 2 part B. So friends, with this I am going to end this session. Let's meet tomorrow again. Till then, take care, stay safe. Thank you.